My name is Lindsay Mitchell. I'm 28 years old. And just a few weeks ago, I stood outside the house where I grew up, the house my grandfather promised would be mine, only to find the locks changed. And my mother, inside. Brenda, the woman who gave birth to me. The same woman who dropped me off at my grandfather's when I was 8 years old and never looked back. Now she was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes cold, like I was a stranger. "You have nothing here," she said. "Nothing?" "No. This house was everything to me. It was the only real home I ever had. My parents divorced when I was a kid. My dad moved out of state. My mom? She just left. Dropped me with Grandpa Harold and disappeared into her own life. But Grandpa, he raised me. He was at every school recital, every scraped knee, every milestone. He taught me how to cook, how to drive, how to believe in myself again. He was my real parent. And this house, his house, was filled with the only love I ever knew. Before he passed, he told me directly, "This place is yours, Lindsay. When I'm gone, it's yours." And when the will was read, it confirmed everything. Legally, this house belongs to me. But somehow my mother got here first. She changed the locks. She moved in like she owned the place. When I showed her the will, she laughed. And then, she slammed the door in my face. I stood on the porch, trembling. Not just from rage, from heartbreak. That house held my childhood, my healing, my safety, and she'd stolen it again. Just like she walked out of my life. Now she walked back in to steal the only piece of it that still felt like home. So I did the only thing I could think of. I called the lawyer. I called the police. I called my best friend. But no one could help. Not yet. "It's a civil matter," the officer told me. So now it was war. Not over property. Over principle. Over love. Over legacy. And I wasn't backing down. I barely slept that night. I kept replaying her voice in my head. "You have nothing here." Like I didn't exist. Like I hadn't spent my entire childhood in that house. The next morning, I went to Grandpa's lawyer again, hoping maybe there was a legal backdoor, something he missed, some clause that would let me walk in and reclaim what was already mine. He sighed and looked at me with tired eyes. "Lindsay," he said, "we're going to have to take this through probate. She's contesting the will." "What?" I blinked. "But it's clear. He left the house to me." "She's claiming undue influence," he said. "She's saying Harold was confused in his last years, that you manipulated him." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd it made me dizzy. Manipulate the man who raised me? Who cut off contact with her decades ago? But that wasn't even the worst part. He slid over a printed real estate listing. "This was sent to me anonymously," he said. "Thought you should see it." It was a listing for my grandfather's house. My house. Already on the market. Already photographed. Already listed at $589,000. She was selling it. Behind my back. With no legal right to it. There were photos of my childhood bedroom staged. The garden I helped Grandpa plant, now listed as a premium feature. It felt like someone was trying to erase me from my own story. In high resolution. I felt sick. This wasn't just about greed. This was personal. She wasn't trying to claim the house to live in it. She was trying to cash it in, turn the only home I ever had into a payday. And the listing? It said, "Sale pending." She already had a buyer. I stared at the screen, heartbeat pounding, and said the only thing that made sense anymore. "She wants a fight? Fine. Let's give her one." I took the listing printout and stared at the bold red letters. Sale pending. That wasn't just a warning. It was a ticking clock. My mother wasn't wasting time. She had found a buyer, made the deal, and was days, maybe hours, away from signing. If those papers went through, the house would legally transfer to a stranger, and once it was gone, it was gone. I turned to the lawyer. "What can we do to stop this?" He didn't flinch. "We freeze the deal." "What does that mean?" "It means we file an emergency injunction in probate court. We argue that until the inheritance dispute is settled, the property cannot legally be sold. We stop the title from changing hands." It sounded aggressive. Risky, but it was the only option. He got to work immediately, and while he filed the motion, I dug up everything I had. Text messages from Grandpa, letters he wrote, even a voicemail where he said, "You'll always have this house, Lindsay. It's yours." By the next morning, the judge approved a temporary freeze. The house couldn't be sold. The funds couldn't be transferred. The title was locked. We'd done it. For now. Then came the phone call. It was from Brenda. No greeting, just venom. "How dare you interfere with this sale? You're ruining everything." I kept my voice calm. "You mean ruining your chance to steal the house and pocket 600 grand? She growled. "I'm your mother." "No, you're a stranger who's stealing from me." She hung up. And I finally realized something. This wasn't about family. It never had been. This was about a woman who walked away from motherhood and came back only when there was money on the table. But not this time, because I was done being the quiet little girl left on a doorstep. Now? I was the rightful heir, and I wasn't going anywhere. A week after we froze the house sale, I got the letter. It was hand-delivered. Official. Heavy legal tone. Brenda had hired a lawyer, and not just any lawyer, one who specialized in elder inheritance disputes. Clearly, she was gearing up for war. I took it straight to my own attorney. He read it, jaw tightening with each line. "She's claiming your grandfather was mentally unfit when he signed the will," he said slowly. I laughed bitterly. "That's her move? Claim he was confused?" "Not just that," he added. "She's saying you manipulated him, isolated him from his family, coerced him into cutting her out." I went cold. That house wasn't just a property. It was the only place I ever felt safe, and now she was trying to rewrite history. Make me the villain in my own life story. "She abandoned me," I said. "I didn't isolate him. She disappeared." He nodded. "I know, but courts don't run on emotion. They run on evidence." So I gave him evidence. I brought in photos of me and Grandpa on every birthday, holiday, and graduation. Voicemails where he called me his greatest pride. Witnesses, friends, neighbors, even Grandpa's church group, who all knew I was his caregiver, his family, his world. I wasn't just going to win this fight. I was going to destroy the lie she built. Meanwhile, Brenda's lawyer went on the offensive. They contacted extended family members, trying to get someone, anyone, to back up her version of the story. But no one did. Because the truth was simple. She left. I stayed. She forgot. I remembered. This wasn't a family feud. It was a battle for legacy. And I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not when I'd already come this far. Not when the truth was finally louder than her manipulation. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not the temperature. The energy. Quiet. Tense. Like everyone was holding their breath. On one side sat Brenda and her polished lawyer in an expensive suit. On the other, me and my attorney, armed with truth, evidence, and 20 years of abandonment. This wasn't a full trial. Just a probate hearing to determine whether the will would be honored or contested. But for me, it felt like something much bigger. When Brenda took the stand, she played it exactly how I expected. Tears, hand-wringing, a trembling voice. I was estranged from my father because he was controlling. I didn't abandon my daughter. He kept her from me. I tried to reconcile. I wrote letters. I called. But Lindsay, she manipulated him. She poisoned him against me in his final years. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Because I didn't need to. My lawyer stood up, calm as ever, and began presenting our side. We showed voicemails from Grandpa saying, "I don't want Brenda near this house. It belongs to Lindsay." Letters from me to him, and from him to me, filled with gratitude and pride. Statements from neighbors who saw me caring for him every week. Testimony from his pastor, saying Grandpa updated his will when he was clear, strong, and intentional. Then, the judge asked me directly if I wanted to speak. I stood, looked Brenda straight in the eye, and said, "You left me when I was 8 years old. You didn't write, you didn't call. Grandpa picked up every piece you dropped. He raised me, loved me. He didn't forget you. You forgot us. And now you want to rewrite history because there's money involved? This house isn't about real estate. It's about who showed up." Brenda didn't even meet my eyes, but the judge did. And in that moment, I knew. We weren't just winning legally. We were winning something deeper. Justice. The judge didn't make a final ruling that day. Instead, she issued a temporary injunction. The house is not to be sold, altered, or occupied by either party until full probate is complete. It wasn't a full win, but it was enough. Brenda would have to leave the house. And for the first time in months, it felt like I could breathe again. But if I thought she'd take it quietly, I was wrong. 3 days later, I woke up to messages from coworkers, friends, even old classmates I hadn't spoken to in years. Someone had shared a post, public, messy, and laced with venom, from Brenda. It's heartbreaking when your own daughter turns against you. I raised Lindsay with love, even if our family had its struggles. Now she's trying to erase me and steal everything my father built. I'm not perfect, but I'm still her mother, and no house is worth destroying blood. Below it were photos of us when I was a child. Me on her lap, me blowing out candles, me hugging her when I was too young to know she'd leave me. Manipulation in high definition. The comments were brutal. No daughter should do that to her mother. She sounds greedy. Sad how entitled some kids are these days. For a moment, it worked. I felt that old shame crawl back in. The guilt. The doubt. Was I overreacting? Was I being too harsh? Then I remembered. That woman didn't raise me. She posed for a few photos, then vanished when parenting got hard. Grandpa raised me. He was the one at every school event, in every hospital room, at every holiday. So instead of replying online, I picked up the phone. I called the same journalist who had covered a local inheritance case last year. "I'm ready to tell my story," I said. "All of it." Because Brenda wanted a public battle, she was about to get one. Only this time, I had the truth. And the receipts. The article went live on a Thursday morning. I had spent hours on the phone with the journalist, walking her through everything. The abandonment, the years Grandpa raised me, the will, the forged narrative, the attempted sale of the house. She was careful, respectful, but thorough. The headline hit like a thunderclap. Daughter battles estranged mother over stolen inheritance, with courtroom and receipts to back it up. The piece wasn't emotional fluff. It was full of facts, screenshots, documents, legal filings, testimonies from Grandpa's friends and neighbors, even a quote from our family pastor. And in the center of it all, my voice. She didn't raise me, she left me. My grandfather gave me that home, not just in a will, but in love. This fight isn't about real estate. It's about refusing to let someone rewrite my story for their convenience. Within 24 hours, the article had over 20,000 shares. And the comments? Very different from Brenda's curated sob story. "You go, girl. Take back what's yours." Moms who abandon their kids don't get to cry family when money's involved. I've been through the same thing. Thank you for speaking up. Truth always wins, even if it takes time. Brenda? She went quiet. No more public posts. No more teary images. No more martyr complex. I imagine she read every word of that article and realized, for the first time, that she had underestimated me, because I wasn't just the little girl she left behind anymore. I was a woman now. A fighter. And I wasn't afraid to be seen. That weekend, I got a call from someone unexpected. The buyer who had been planning to purchase the house from Brenda. "I just want to say, I had no idea. I've already pulled out of the deal, and I hope you win." And just like that, something shifted. This wasn't just a legal battle anymore. It was a movement. And I wasn't fighting alone. Just days before the final probate hearing, Brenda reached out one last time. She didn't call. She didn't text. She showed up, uninvited, at my apartment. I saw her through the peephole. Same woman, same false softness in her face, but this time, she wasn't wearing defiance. She wore a carefully constructed mask of motherly regret. I opened the door, but didn't let her in. She clasped her hands together like she was praying. "Lindsay, we don't have to let this go to court. We can settle this between us." I stayed silent. "You can have the house. I'll sign whatever. But maybe we do something fair. Like split the sale. We both get something out of this." Fair? I almost laughed. She left me with nothing as a child. Now she wanted to split the only thing I had left? I replied as calmly as I could. "You don't get to negotiate with what was never yours." She blinked, still trying to keep her mask in place. "I'm your mother." That line again. That ancient script she dusted off whenever she needed leverage. But I wasn't 8 years old anymore. "No, you're a stranger who returned when there was something to gain. I survived without you. I don't owe you closure, comfort, or compromise." She didn't say another word, just turned and walked away. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt peace, because the trial was just days away. And win or lose, one thing was certain. She could no longer rewrite my story. No more gaslighting. No more guilt. No more pretending she was anything more than what she had chosen to be, absent. The law would speak next. And this time, the truth had a seat at the table. The morning of the final probate hearing, I dressed simply. No dramatic colors, no power suit, just confidence. As I walked into the courthouse, I wasn't shaking like I thought I'd be. I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was about closure. It was about standing for the truth, and the man who raised me when no one else would. Brenda sat across the aisle, her face tight, lips pursed. Her lawyer looked smug, but tired, like even he knew they were playing a losing hand. The judge entered, and the hearing began. My lawyer led with everything. The will, the notarized statements, the testimony from Grandpa's church, friends, and doctors, confirming he was of sound mind, evidence that I had been his sole caregiver for years, and documentation showing Brenda had been out of contact for nearly 2 decades. When it was Brenda's turn, her lawyer tried to argue that Grandpa had been confused, that I had manipulated him emotionally. But when the judge asked for direct evidence, there was none. Only assumptions, only tears. And finally, the judge looked directly at Brenda. "You claim you were excluded unfairly. But the will is clear, the testimonies are consistent, and your absence from your father's life speaks louder than any legal argument. This house was left to Lindsay, not out of confusion, but intention." Then she turned to me. "This court upholds the will is valid. The property legally belongs to you, Ms. Mitchell." Just like that, it was done. Brenda didn't speak. She didn't even look at me as she left the courtroom. But I watched her go. Not with anger, not with triumph, but with something I never expected to feel. Freedom. I wasn't fighting anymore. I had won, not just the house, but the right to own my story. The right to say, I was not the abandoned girl anymore. I was the woman who came back and took back everything that was stolen. 1 week after the ruling, I stood on the porch of my grandfather's house again. Only this time, I wasn't locked out. There were no changed keys, no hostile glares through the window, no shouting through a door, just silence and sunlight. I held the key in my hand, the original one. Grandpa had given it to me years ago, just in case. And now, it opened the door again. The hinges creaked, like they remembered me. The smell of old wood and memories filled the air. Everything was still in place, but it felt different. Not because the furniture had changed, but because I wasn't the scared girl hoping someone would fight for her. I was the woman who fought for herself, and won. I walked through each room slowly. My bedroom, the kitchen, the little breakfast nook where Grandpa used to read the paper and hum old jazz tunes. There were still notes in his handwriting on the fridge. I didn't cry. Not yet. I smiled. Because this wasn't a house anymore. It was a legacy, and it was finally in the right hands. I spent the weekend cleaning it room by room. Not scrubbing away the past, but honoring it. I framed one of Grandpa's old letters and put it by the front door. Don't let anyone tell you what's yours. If they try, remind them who you are. I get it now. He didn't just leave me a house. He left me the strength to protect it. To protect myself. I still get messages from people who read my story. Strangers who became silent allies. Women who say, "Thank you for showing me it's okay to fight back." And to them I say, "You're not wrong for protecting what's yours. You're not dramatic. You're not difficult. You're powerful, and you are not alone." As I stood on the porch that night, lights glowing warmly behind me, I whispered to the sky, "I'm home now, Grandpa, and I'm going to make you proud." And for the first time in a long time, I felt whole.